Let's take a trip back to when I came from Idaho to California and how it evolved into an acting career. I arrived in Los Angeles with $3 in my pocket. Now, I didn't know anybody, not a soul, so I came into LA over Laurel Canyon, straight down to Schwab's drugstore like a homing pigeon. That's where the actors all hung out, was Schwab's drugstore. And I had no idea, just, serendipity. So I slept in the car that night. Next morning, no concerns about anything. My $3 was still in my pocket. I just went up Sunset Strip, service station to service station, until I found one that I could work at, got a job. Then I talked the guy into advancing me $20 against the job. Went out that afternoon and talked to the landlady into letting me have a room for a week free in advance. And I was going in California. Getting into acting, however, I met and dated an actress named Judy Meredith that had a TV series with, his name was Ronnie Burns. And he had a TV series and she played the girlfriend. And I used to pick her up every night at the acting class she belonged to. And she said, Don, instead of sitting there, why don't you join the class? I said, okay. And I did. And in about 3 months, we put on a play, and it was just for family or friends, no admission or anything, small little play. And a director named Hugo Haas and his wife came down to see the play. And afterward, he came up and he said, I want you to be in my next movie. I'll write in the young romantic lead. And I said, terrific, Now all of a sudden, I'm thinking I am an actor. And but he had a girl named Cleo Moore that was the fatale dame of the time with large boobs and blonde hair, Jane Mansfield type. He showed her my picture and she said, I can't do a love scenes with that boy because I looked very young in those days. So Hugo said, well, we just have to skip it for this movie. And I said, okay. And about a year later, however, here came Hugo back, a new script, and it was called Paradise Alley. I did it with Miss Universe and some wonderful character actors. So that was my first entry, and that's how I got into the industry. Some of you might wonder, why would I, after one movie, why would I look for a change of direction and so forth? And I think it was because of the people that I was associating with at the time. Jim Garner and I both had the same agent. I was a literary agent, Red Herzog, and so I had a good agent working for me. And at that time, you could go into Schwab's drugstore, that was my hangout, and you'd see coming in there Gregory Peck and Clark Gable and Steve McQueen and just, all the stars of Hollywood came down, get their prescriptions and or a cup of coffee or, a soda or whatever. It wasn't until about 1958, a writer named Sidney Skolsky wrote for the fan magazines, from the corner booth of Schwab's drugstore, I see all these stars, and he named them off. And it wasn't 3 weeks later, all the tourists were piling in there and all the stars stopped going there. But I met a lot of people, Telly Savalas and, I can't even name them. It's an interesting story how the Rebel set occurred in my life and how I got cast in it. True story. You may not believe it, but it's a true story. Saturday afternoon, warm and balmy. It's not afternoon, about 11 o'clock. Warm and balmy, and I'm walking down to get some breakfast. Got up late. And walking down Sunset Boulevard. And a Cadillac pulls up next to me. Hey, kid, are you an actor? And I said, yeah. He said, get in the car. I said, no. And he said, oh, no, here's my card. I'm an agent, Larry, and I don't remember his name. And he said, Richard Long at Columbia Screen Gems was going to do one of the leads in the movie, the Rebel set. And his wife or his girlfriend, I forget which, had broken up with him, and he was so distraught, he backed out and said, I can't do it. I'm under medication and blah, blah, blah. And he said, I told the director and the producer that I had another actor just as good. And he said, you're it. So he said, get in the car. So we drove down to Columbia Screen Gems. I read for the director and the producer. They said, fine. And they gave me a script late Saturday afternoon to start shooting on Monday. Now, I never was, my memory today is really suspect, but it wasn't that much better in those days. And to try to memorize a script in one day, I was so, not intimidated, but I was just nervous when I went down that morning. And I'm surprised when I watch the old movie now, it doesn't show. It really, the nervousness really didn't show. So that was very fortunate. Some of you might be interested in the Rebel set of what happened to the production, the actors that I worked with. So I'll go through the ones that I really associated with. Number one, Vicki Dugan, of course. She was famous for the back. She was the first actress that had the whole back of her dress taken out going down the red carpet at some premiere. So she was kind of famous, and I thought she really was a beautiful, sexy girl. She went with a friend of mine, Lance Fuller, who was a pretty fair actor, did a number of films, and ended up on drugs and wrecked his car going down one of the Laurel Canyon, smashed about 5 other cars. Police came up, he threatened them with a shotgun, and they killed him. It's kind of a sad thing. Vicki went on, I don't know where she went on from there. She was a very nice girl. Then in the male acting end of it, Greg Palmer was probably, he and I bonded more than anybody because we understood each other quite well. Greg had been at Universal Studios under contract, and I think they hired him to bury him because he looked a lot like Rock Hudson, and he acted a lot like Rock Hudson. And they were afraid Universal, so for a couple of hundred a week, they just kept him buried. And it's an interesting thing about the film, The Rebel Set. It was a story really of losers. And the reality of it was, I was kind of lost in my own melee of creative endeavors, just jumping all over the place, having a great time, but not concentrating on a single one. Greg was unhappy because he felt his moment had really passed him by. Now he put on quite a bit of weight. He was a little heavier and he was older, and he didn't hit it when Rock Hudson hit it. So he felt he was kind of a loser. John Lupton, with the mustache, John had done some big stuff and now was going kind of back the other way with a B movie. And I think he wanted to be a writer. He was a wannabe writer in the film, but he really wanted to be a writer also. So I didn't follow his career after that. But we were, in a sense, kind of fit the roles very well. And psychologically, I think it was well cast. I'm not sure as I say, some TLC on it, I'd mentioned to a friend of mine that maybe a couple of close-ups in there would have just taken that movie even to a little higher level. I love the one scene that I did where I'm sitting with Greg Palmer and his wife, and they're talking back and forth. And I don't know why the director put me in that scene, because I'm just sitting there, you know. I don't have one word, but I'm in the entire scene. But it's probably, in my opinion, some of the best acting I ever did, because it was moment to moment. I am listening to what they're saying, and I'm reacting internally to what they're saying. So I was beginning to get some technique under my belt just from working with good actors, you know. 50 years ago, I did the B movies, the Gila Monster and the Rebel Set, Monster Piedras Blancas, and I thought they were just really awful. Not the movie, but me, I just thought was awful. 50 years later, I look at them, and it's so strange because I look and I say, I was pretty good, considering I had no technical background, I had no training, I had a limited amount of time in Hollywood. I was just getting started. But it took me 50 years to divorce myself from looking and thinking it's not James Dean. You know, it's me, and maybe see, I didn't realize that even the James Dean came out to Hollywood, did a couple of TV things, couldn't make it, went back to New York and studied, couldn't make it, came back out to Hollywood and got the East of Eden and became a star. But that was a 10 or 11 year period. And during that period of time, he was studying, he was working his craft, and nobody ever explained this to me. I thought, you know, you're either incredibly good first time out of the barrel, or you don't have it. You know, why I perhaps got away from the acting industry is my mind and my ambitions for trying new things and doing things was virtually spinning at that time. I was sculpting, I was painting, I was writing songs. I wrote probably 50 songs. And an actor named Biff Elliott did the first Eye of the Jury Mike Hammer picture. Biff and we wrote 3 television synopses, 3 scripts for a series called The Stuntman. However, we couldn't get anybody interested, so it went into a trunk. And that was it. About 6, 7 years later, they did a series called The Stuntman. But Biff and I had all written, planned, and tried to sell it 6 years earlier. And that's what happens in Hollywood. You know, the question came up one time to me of what I thought of Mystery Science Theater 3000. And I've always liked it for reasons that most people don't understand. And that is, the first time I saw it was on the giant Gila monster, and the little robots added humor to it. It was a nice film. Everybody enjoyed it, the songs. However, the Science Fiction 3000 robots added luster to that, and the same thing with the Rebel set. Here's a good movie with a lot of interesting interplay of 3 losers, and who really, if you look into that and watch it carefully, is a very interesting psychological interplay. And they add humor to it in a beautiful way that takes it, the robots in science fiction theater take it from a B movie to an A movie, and that makes it very nice for the actors that are in them. So I love it. I love robots.